Okay, this is Sam with Awesome Gardens YouTube channel, and I'm going to continue with my compost pile and talking about my compost pile, just some simple opinions about compost that I've learned just from my first compost pile. This is my first compost pile I'm turning. Here it is right here, big compost pile. It's about as tall as I am. This is as tall as I am. Actually, it was as tall as I was yesterday, and it sunk down a little bit. That's good. It's working down, breaking down a little bit. And I was right in the middle of talking about moisture, adding water to your compost. I showed this picture in Charles H. Wilbur's book, How to Grow World Record Tomatoes. He grew giant tomatoes. And I was talking about adding water. And in his compost, after he created his compost, after it heated up, and he would put it in compost bins and cover the tops of it with plastic and just make sure to keep it moist enough. And he said that he would store his compost for several years like this and take it to farmers markets, and even after a year or two, his compost would look like it was brand new and still viable, still good, just from covering it and keeping it from getting rained on. Now, he said when you get your compost pile rained on, that it will leach a lot of the minerals and nutrients out of the compost pile. So I've been covering my compost pile with a swimming pool there, and a little bit of plastic that I have. Some plastic over there, right there. That just came, that was some plastic. It's kind of like a big tarp that came with some of the crates I've been tearing apart. A swimming pool I just put over the top of it, and plastic there. It doesn't look like it's going to rain today, so I'm just going to leave it out. Now, I do pour some water on my compost pile, and I wanted to talk about that. I just pour enough water to keep it nice and moist. Moist enough for the squeeze test. Here's his Charles talking about the squeeze test. You want to squeeze it, and it should hold together, but it should not drip when you squeeze it. And that's a simple test to know if you have enough moisture. Now, there is a difference, I think, between pouring a little bit of water to keep it moist and rain. Sometimes when it rains, it just rains dramatically and washes everything away. So you want to get it just moist enough to hold together when you squeeze it. Simple test. We're trying to make this easy for everybody. Okay, so keep it covered when it rains, but make sure it is moist enough to heat up. Here comes my daughter. Can you say hello, Miranda? Say hello.
Hello.
That's my daughter, Miranda. She's a sweetheart. What is this, Miranda? Tell everybody what this is, this big pile.
It's big pile.
What is it? Compost?
It's compost.
It is compost.
Compost.
Alright, now he says he recommends turning your pile with a pitchfork. And guess what? I have a pitchfork. That's what I've been turning it with. And I recommend doing that. I recommend having a big compost pile. In my opinion, the bigger the better, because it's just more weight that squeezes down. Squeeze that compost down, make it heat up, have enough moisture in there, it'll heat up really nice and good. Now, if you want to do some experiments, he did some experiments with his compost, and he would try different kinds and different stages of compost, and the ones that burned his plants out he wouldn't use. So that's a good test. Put some pots out, put some compost, mix it with some soil if you want to, and do some tests to see how your plants grow. Just test it out. It's real easy. That is another book, sweetie. Good job. One thing he does not recommend, now you should put manure on your compost, but he does not recommend chicken manure. Does not recommend chicken manure. I believe he used dairy cow manure. He got a lot of it for free from nearby. Get this book, Charles H. Wilbur, How to Grow World Record Tomatoes. He'll tell you how to compost. What's that? Want your Snoopy toy? Okay. I'm just going to talk about a few things real quick. I made a few notes. Okay, now when I pour water... Miranda, quiet, quiet.
in the house.
Can you go play? Can you go play? Here, play in the compost. Play in the compost. Now, when I pour water on this, you want the water to make that good Rice Krispies pop. And when I turn it is when I add the water. In my opinion, that just shows me, tells me that the water is seeping into all those gaps. It tells me that it has air and water. It makes a good Rice Krispies pop. Now, one thing about your compost, add urine. Add urine, add manure, add your own manure. Just make sure it composts well, heats up well. It'll be alright. There are some books about using human manure to compost. And why not? We use cow manure, horse manure, sheep manure, all that good stuff. I actually have a friend who raises sheep, and I plan on getting a lot of sheep manure, a truckload at least, to use to compost. Okay, now what I started with here in my compost pile is just a lot of grass clippings. This is my lawnmower. It does have a grass catcher, and I just mow over it once to put it in a straight pile, shoot it all out the same side, and then I mow over it again after it's straight up a little bit, and catch the grass clippings in a bagger. And that's basically just what I've started with, grass clippings and leaves, and you can see all the leaves still there. Now this compost, see this entire area in my back here? This compost is about 2 feet high in this entire area over here. And it's been sitting here for a little bit over a year in about a 2 foot high area, and it's just kind of sunk down, and then I just started piling it up, and that's what my compost started with. So all this green material basically was just brown material, but some of it had already composted down and started turning black, and then I piled it up and it started going. I saw a good video on YouTube where a guy had a wire cage. Woo! A guy had a wire cage, and my daughter's getting compost all over her. The guy had a wire cage, and he would just about 3 feet around, and he'd fill it up about 4 feet high, and he would just move compost in it. Move the wire cage, do it again. I think that's pretty good, but one thing I'd recommend is have a big pile. I think a bigger pile the better. When I pick up some compost, they have these piles a good 15 feet high, and you can just, when they dig it out and load your truck up, you can just see the steam rolling off of it, and I think that's really good. Bigger the pile the better, in my opinion, and turn it with a pitchfork. It's good exercise, and it's actually a lot of fun. It doesn't take long to move. I believe this is at least a ton, and just good exercise. I'm right by the train tracks. Here comes the train. Here comes the train. There it goes. I wanted to talk just a moment about greens versus browns. Greens versus browns in your compost pile. One thing they say about greens is it has the nitrogen, and another thing about the browns is it has the carbon. And they say to mix it, have a good ratio. Some people give you a certain amount of ratio to use. You know what I say? Just throw what you have on a pile, get it started, add some manure, add some water for some moisture, not too wet, not too dry, and just turn it. Keep it moist, give it oxygen, good organic material, turn it, you will have compost. Do that, compost happens. One thing, if you want really good compost to grow the really big tomatoes, I would recommend reading the book by Charles H. Wilbur, and use kudzu, beans, peas, alfalfa, add manure, and stir it up, let it heat up. If you turn it every day, Mel Bartholomew says you'll have compost in 2 weeks. I plan on turning mine about every other day or every 2-3 days, because I want it to sit for a little while, kind of press down and heat up. It's a good thing about making compost, you can do it how you want to. The main thing I would say about starting to compost is get started. Just get some organic material, pile it up. This is going to be your garden's nutrition. This is what's going to make your plants grow and thrive. And guess what you can possibly do? You can possibly grow tomatoes like this. I want you to imagine a world where everybody is composting, everybody has a garden, everybody needs a garden, And just imagine what I can grow in this area. This is about 80 feet by about 40 feet. And let me tell you, I can grow a lot of stuff here. Probably enough to feed all three of us in our family. I wanted to show one thing to you. These are water barrels I bought for $5 a piece. $5 a piece. I'm going to use that to build a rainwater catching system against my house and have it all plumbed out to where I can water my entire garden. If you have any comments, questions, post them down below. Let me know. And let me tell you, this is going to be a fun place for my daughter to play. She's going to have fun. Look at her having fun with my topsoil. Miranda, say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Say compost.